Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This video is my May hopefuls, all the books I want to read in May. I am so busy in May that I genuinely don't know when I'm going to have time to read. I did have an amazing reading month in April, so I can sort of afford to read a bit less this month. Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to fit it in, but I'm going to have an overly ambitious TBR anyway because I love reading and I love books and there's so many I want to read. If I set a long list, hopefully I'll get as many of them done as possible. So, let's talk about what books I want to read this month. So the first book I want to read this month is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. I really enjoyed her book, The Night Hunt, which is about like gods and monsters. Her books are very different fantasy. They're sort of in their own complete unique worlds and they're not fairies, they're not vampires yet, so they're very different. So I'm super excited to read this one, which is about a siren and it's an enemies to lovers romance. Enemies to lovers romance. I love an enemies to lovers romance. That's like my favourite trope. Yeah, she's a siren and there are mermaids. Sirens and mermaids are different in this world, so I think that's what's going to be quite unique. He's a siren hunter and they basically end up working together, I think, and I don't know how that happens. I'm assuming they end up falling in love. I'm excited. The second one I want to read is Princess of Souls, and I have this in a Fairy Loot really pretty edition. It's so nice, like it's got like orange on the front and like sprayed edges, and yeah, it's so pretty. And this is like in the same series, but they follow different characters. I just believe they're set in the same world. I don't know how closely linked they are. I rarely have series on my shelf at the same time. Like I usually buy one then have to go and buy the next one. So I'm excited to actually like try and read these consecutively and see if that helps like how immersed I am in the world. So the next book I want to read is one I have already started reading. It's by Chris Van Tulken, Ultra Processed People. It's just come out in paperback, so I think it's just having like another big branding push, and I'm seeing it on a lot of like bus advertisements and store advertisements and stuff, so you might have seen this one around. And it's basically all about like eating processed food. So this is a non-fiction book, to clarify, it's not a story. I'm trying to read like one non-fiction book a month, roughly. Yeah, I think this will be an interesting read. I think it'll potentially be quite a depressing read because I love processed snacks, and I'm hoping this might make me sort of think about the consequences of eating so much processed food. I'm not trying to give up processed food completely, but I think it's good to be aware of these things and be mindful of them. Yeah, I'll see if I like it or not, and I can't wait to review this one. So far it has been really interesting. But yeah, it's nice to read about something that I don't know anything about. So the fourth book on my TBR this month is one I am so excited for. If you'd have seen my Edinburgh book haul video, you'll have seen I bought Icebreaker. This is obviously like such a TikTok famous book. I know the second one, Wildfire's, out now. And yeah, I don't think it appealed to me that much when it came out, but I've got to read a sports romance for the F1 reading challenge that I'm doing. So I thought, why not go with like the most famous one? And I don't know, I'm kind of excited to be part of the club. I got this, and I just kind of want to give them a little shout out because they're so nice, at Rare Birds Bookshop in Edinburgh. If you go to Edinburgh, it's so worth going to. And like they even put in like this little cute quote. I think it's actually stuck in. Yeah, like as part of the book. And it says, this TikTok famous Olympus romance features a wazzing figure skater and the captain of a hockey team. Very spicy. And it says Rach. This is a Rare Birds favourite. And yeah, I just thought it was such a cute touch, and like, I don't know, it's just nice to remember. Now keep that book, it's got that little touch inside of it. Got a bookmark too, and they've got rare bird, noun, an exceptional person or thing or a rarity. And yeah, I just thought like there was such a cute bookshop, I wanted to give them a little shout out. But yeah, so excited to read this one. Spicy sports romance. It's such a summer read as well. Like I haven't been in the mood to read anything like this over winter. I started reading more romances over April. Trying to remember what month we were just in. Yeah, I read quite a few romances in April and really enjoyed them. The sun's out, it's bank holiday weekend soon. Let's get reading. Hopefully I enjoy this one as much as everyone else has. If you'll have seen my March wrap up, you'll have seen that I started the Throne of Glass series. So I was going to try and do one book a month, but I don't know what happened in April. I just didn't read one. So now I've got Crown of Midnight and I'm going to read it this month. It's definitely going to happen. I really enjoyed the first one. Such Sarah J Maas fan. So yeah, I'm very excited to find out what happens in this. It did feel like Throne of Glass rounded off really well, so I don't like quite know what's going to go with this. I know people say the series gets very different after the first book and sort of follows a whole new plot line. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it's gonna go because I genuinely have no idea, and excited to get back into that world and into those characters again. The romance also was very much a subplot in Throne of Glass, and you could see it sort of bubbling, and I'm hoping that comes out a bit more in Crown of Midnight and we find out a bit more of where that's going. And I'm not sure if it's going where I think it's going, and I'm not going to say anything because of spoilers. This is the only thing with reading series. You don't want to say like anything about this book because I don't want to spoil the first book in case someone hasn't read it. But because it's Sarah J Maas, I don't know if suddenly we're going to have like a complete like right turn with the romance or a left turn, and it's just going to go completely the opposite way in which I think it's going. So I'm like plotting in my head. I don't know, we'll see. I'm very excited. Now, this is probably my most anticipated May read. My TBR, the books I've got, my physical TBR at the moment is unreal. Like, I've got so many good books I want to read. So for me to say that, it's quite high up. And this book is Dust Child, and it is by Nguyen Phan Kume. I'm really sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. She is also the author of The Mountains That Sing, which is an outstanding book. I'm so excited for her second novel. It's also set in Vietnam. I love Vietnamese history. I think it's so fascinating. Even though it's really difficult to read about, it's so important to read about. And I think it's definitely, in England, we don't learn much about any Asian history. So yeah, I just find it fascinating. I think this book is also set over like, not necessarily 2 generations, but it's set in 2 different times. Like the way she did that previously was just outstanding. And I find it just so interesting when books overlap in different time zones and characters overlap in different time periods, and you see them like in the future, but then you go back to them and their past selves. So I'm very excited to see how that goes. I've just said exciting and interesting so many times because, to be honest, I don't know loads about this book. I know it follows 2 sisters, but because it is by her, that's enough. Like, I am sold and I'm ready to just give my heart to this book. I don't know when to read it because I don't want to read it like after work a bit here, on the train a bit here. I just want to sit down and devour it and enjoy it as much as I possibly can. So yeah, I don't know when I'm going to read it, but hopefully at some point in May. I think I've got a long train journey at some point. That's at the end of the month though. I don't want to wait till the end of the month to read this book. I want to read it now. I'm very excited. So the final book I want to read this month is not one I have the physical copy of yet. I'm actually waiting until I finish A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon to allow myself to buy it. The final book I want to read this month is, of course, Funny Story by Emily Henry. I'm so excited for another Emily Henry book. They're just lovely stories that also sort of have important messages about them. I deliberately haven't gone into what Funny Story is about myself. I know that like the anticipation is there and everyone wants to know, and I know people are going to start reviewing it because it comes out at the end of April, and I literally see them on Bookstagram and I'm like, scroll, get away, don't want to know anything. Obviously it's going to be a romance because it's Emily Henry and the cover very much looks like it's a romance, but I know nothing more than that. You're probably watching this video having read it and already know more than I do right now, but I'm going to read it and I hope I love it as much as I do her other ones. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it other than it's Emily Henry. Like, just please be as amazing as everything else she already does. And if you haven't read any Emily Henry yet, this is the time to start. Like, on a sunny day, get an Emily Henry book and go and sit in the sun and live your best life. My favourite Emily Henry book is definitely, and now I'm really thinking about it. Okay, it's because I get them confused. My favourite Emily Henry book is Book Lovers, and I think that was the first one I read, and yeah, it's still my favourite. So those are all the books that I'm reading in May. I don't know when I'm going to read them, but I'm going to make the time. I'd love to know what you're reading this month. So please comment down below what books you're reading. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon.